So my mom tells a story of when I was about 5 years old. We were visiting some extended relatives, and I sat on the floor playing in my own little make-believe world. Something I still do today, actually. But during that visit, some older relatives, great aunts I believe, started complimenting my older sister, singing her praises, saying how pretty she was, telling my mom to watch out for her because she is going to break some hearts one day. So I hear this. I hear what they're saying about my older sister, but I also hear loud and clear what they're not saying about me. So then that's when my mom overhears me whisper to myself, "That's because she's light-skinned." What I know now is that I was witnessing and observing something called colorism. See if this gets on. There we go. So colorism is less often talked about, but it is a global issue that rivals things like racism, sexism, classism, and the other isms. It's a system of oppression that privileges lighter skin tones over darker skin tones. One thing to remember about colorism versus racism is that color is not a synonym for race. People can be the same race and have different skin tones, and people can be different races and have very similar skin tones. What I experienced at 5 was an example of colorism because my sister and I have the same mother, we have the same father, we are the same race. So these women were distinguishing between us based on the particular shade of our complexions. Growing up in a household as a dark-skinned girl with a light-skinned mother and a light-skinned sister, the differences in how people treated us was very apparent to me. And the notion that I could not be a heartbreaker because I was darker-skinned showed up many more times throughout my life. And while heartbreaker status was supposedly inaccessible to me, heartbreak seemed readily available. So then we might ask, how does a person heal from something like the heartbreaking reality of colorism? People say it starts at home. If that's the case, then where does it end? Today, I'd like to share with you just one lesson that I've learned along my own healing journey. Throughout my life, throughout my childhood, teenage years, and even as a young adult, I suffered from colorism, but alone and in silence. I didn't think anyone would listen or understand or care, and I was afraid to speak about it. I was afraid that people would judge me, that they would label me jealous or insecure, or accuse me of being too sensitive or causing greater division. And yet, despite those years of fear and silence, here I am today talking about colorism. Yes. And here's why. Here's what changed for me. I was in my early to mid-20s teaching high school English back in my hometown, and I adored my students. But it surprised me to hear them say things like, "I wish I was light-skinned like my mom." Or, "I don't like this picture of myself because I look too black on here." Or, "I'm less proud of myself because I got darker over the summer." And even, "I don't like dark-skinned people when I first meet them." Hearing multiple students express these negative feelings and negative attitudes about dark skin, about their own dark skin, as well as the dark skin of others, that was yet another form of heartbreak for me. But that's when I knew I had to say something. I chose to break the silence because I wanted to break the cycle for the generations coming after me. Now, I'm a writer. So when I thought about how I could personally address this issue, I turned to my writing skills. And in the wee hours of a July morning in 2013, I started a new blog. I knew a couple of things. One, I wanted the blog to be a source of information to raise awareness about colorism. And two, I wanted it to be an opportunity to discuss what we can do about colorism. What are some possible solutions? So I thought long and hard about a title, and I settled on Colorism Healing. Now, the colorism part might be obvious. It's literally the subject of the blog. But that healing word has 3 key components. The first component is individual healing, and that's primarily what the focus of my talk is today. Individual healing includes personal mental health, but also reprogramming our unconscious biases about certain skin tones. Now, the second key component is healing relationships between individuals and amongst groups of people. And the third key component that we cannot forget is systemic change across the larger society. So I started that blog, and I ended up stepping into a new era of my life. And over the years, I've had the chance to meet thousands of beautiful souls from around the world. And in particular, it is my International Colorism Healing Writing Contest that perfectly illustrated for me how colorism is truly a global issue and that we are not alone in our experiences of colorism. One of the contestants said, "I thought it was just me. I thought it was just in my culture." And so many people come to this work and have their eyes opened to the vast diversity of people who all have something to say about colorism. Having the honor to collect these stories and facilitate this chorus of diverse voices from different countries, different ages, different races, different ethnicities, different languages, that continues to reaffirm my faith in the healing process. So I've learned more about colorism, I've learned more about healing, but I've also learned more about myself. No surprises there. But in particular, I've learned more about my relationship to my younger self, to this little girl. I call her Little Sarah, and I can still feel her with me. I still recognize her expressions of sadness, of hurt, of anger, and disappointment. I can still feel her broken heart. I think of our relationship like a set of nesting dolls where there's adult me, Big Sarah, and inside are all the smaller, younger versions of me. So I still carry Little Sarah within me, which means the healing work I do in the present also extends back to her as well. And it was only a few years ago, so relatively recently, when I found the words to really express the healing work I had been doing. There's a song, because with me, there is always a song. But this particular song is called Breathe by Sanibel C. Great song. I suggest you listen right after this event. But within the song lyrics, there's a vivid contrast between home, where they love my broken heart, as opposed to here, where my beauty and my worth are simply a given. So I was listening to this song on repeat when I saw an analogy to colorism. Colorism is that home where they love my broken heart. It is growing up a dark-skinned Black girl in a society founded on white supremacy and anti-Blackness. It is a birthplace where your darker complexion will have a negative impact on how you're treated by school teachers, by police officers, judges, jurors, lawyers, doctors, nurses, grocery store clerks, your managers at work, and yes, far too often, your own family. So colorism may indeed start at home, but here's where I believe it ends on the personal level. Healing is when here, that place where my value is never questioned and never denied, becomes me. I am that place. And then I become home. I am home. To be able to say I am home, not as a matter of geographic location or physical space, but as a state of being. That's healing to me. And so after all the heartbreak and after all the joys, after meeting each and every individual that I've met on this journey, hey y'all, I think about my 5-year-old self a lot. And here's what I'd like to say to her and to all of you here now. Who wants to be a heartbreaker anyway? Just wait. You'll see. Healing hearts. Now that's really where it's at. Thank you. Mm-hmm.